I've never proved the story in my life. Thanks. If it's good enough, put it in the paper.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin, it doesn't matter. O'Sullivan used to be his middle name. You know.
Well, who cares? Who cares? It's a good story. Put it in.
Put it in. Welcome again to Grumpy Old Men. I am joined by grumpy stalwarts, Kev and Mike. And first, to Mike. Trains.
Yes, trains. I don't go on trains very often.
Why is that? Because you have a very nice car.
I do have a very nice car. But also, it's because I forget. It's a bit like childbirth, isn't it? You forget how bad the last time it was when you went on a train. So you get on another train.
Have you given birth as well? We didn't know.
I've been at the presence of 4 births, all of which were mine. And I claim that they were pretty traumatic, quite frankly.
What he doesn't like is watching childbirth.
Yeah. So I get to go to Edinburgh, right? Then I got home from being out for dinner on the Friday night, and I was coming back on the Saturday, to get a message from the train people saying, "We're terribly sorry, your train's been cancelled. Here's where you get a refund." No sort of suggestion of what I should do then.
I don't want a refund. I want to get there
on a train.
So I then went back on the app to try and book another train journey, and the next offering was via Lancaster, right?
Oh.
We're also with 2 changes, one in Lancaster and one in Birmingham. So I booked it. Get on the train. So the guy comes around. I said, "I've got 2 tickets here." I said, "Do I have to change at Lancaster?" He says, "No." I said, "Why have I got 2 tickets then?" He said, "Because that's the way we sell it. It's called a split journey."
It's the way I sell them.
So, yeah. So I said, "I don't have to get off then." He went, "No." He said, "If I were you, I'd get off at Crewe." I said, "What? Why would I get off at Crewe?" He said, "Well, because the train's quicker from Crewe.
David Platt did that once.
Crewe to London's quicker than the way you're going." He said, "But I wouldn't do that." I said, "Well, you just told me I should." And I'm going, why am I having to go through this torture, right?
Well, hold on a second. It's a lot worse in Tokyo. Look at this.
All right.
Well, that's quite like the tube here, isn't it? What's he doing?
They're shoving people in.
Yeah. Oh, so these are people who are paid to push you on the train.
They used to have brushes, I think, didn't they?
Yeah.
That would have been better.
So
you
this
wouldn't
is
have to have touched people then.
The train was half an hour delayed on its original sort of 6-hour journey. By the time I got back to Euston, it was something like 11:30 and I'd left at 10 to 5.
I think the moral of this story is, Mike, put your hand in your pocket, get a helicopter. Angela Rayner.
Angela Rayner. This is a difficult territory because in criticising her, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Housing Secretary, which is what I intend to do, I will be slammed for being sexist, and classist. You're having a go at her because she's a woman and she's working class. You're a sexist snob. So, let's go. What we're doing, we're liaising with other governments and we're following the United Nations resolution and we're talking to other governments and we're following the situation. It's fast-moving and it's changing all the time.
I've closed my eyes. It's like she's in the...
Uncanny.
Yeah, so what that was, you'll know this, Mike, that was a direct dictation from the press office. What do I do when they ask me about Syria? Well, just say you're following the United Nations resolution and we're talking to other countries.
You didn't appear to know much about
You didn't know it. It was excruciating. Then she goes on to Trevor Phillips on Sky, who asks her, quite rightly, and this is her remit, she is the Secretary of State for Housing, so she should be good on this. And again, you really wanted a hole to open up, that I could dive into, we could all dive into just to get out of this horrific situation. As she made an utter fool of herself about housing. There's plenty of housing in this country, but we've got to build 1.5 million new houses. Trevor Phillips, wait a minute. If there's plenty of housing in this country, why have we got to build 1.5 million new houses?
That's a good point.
Well, the point is that some people that need them more than others, and he ripped her to shreds just with basic logic. And it wasn't a journalist destroying a politician, which sometimes happens. They do it deliberately. It was just a journalist asking obvious questions. Well, if you say that there is plenty of housing in this country, why in the same breath do you say there is a chronic shortage of housing?
Yes.
And on it went. It was painful to watch. This woman You know, it's not about her being a woman or about her being working class. It's about her being a moron. You know, this is the second most powerful person in the country.
I know.
I mean, it's the only...
Really?
She is the only reason that makes me want to say...
Not really.
Entitled.
No. She's the only reason you want to say to Keir Starmer, keep well.
Yeah.
Don't get sick.
No, but of course,
Please don't
she's not
stand down,
actually.
Keir.
They call her the Deputy Prime Minister, but she's not really, because Pat McFadden is the Deputy Prime Minister in all but name. And they always wheel him out when they're in trouble. And he was wheeled out on the Monday to try and cover it all up.
To cover up Sunday.
And that didn't work
but
either.
this used to happen with Blair. Officially, John Prescott, the then Labour pet working class moron, he was Deputy Prime Minister. He was stupid as well. And
I thought he was quite clever.
He was thick as but they always have to have a pet working class person. Used to be Prescott, and hey-ho, it's now Angela Rayner. Good luck with that.
Well, moving on to something far more earth-shattering. I have something that I wish to bring to your attention, gentlemen, which upsets me no end, and that is the frozen pizza. Let me show you. Harrison here is bringing in
My goodness me.
something that
That's a
I would
big box.
describe actually as pizza.
Right.
So you've got a margarita there.
This looks lovely.
And you've got a mushroom pizza there.
And it's nice and hot as well.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, that's pizza.
This
These
is
are great,
And
Mark.
people will argue, oh, well, you know, I get a frozen pizza because it's easy and convenient and is a cost-effective way of feeding
They
everybody.
don't even have proper cheese on them, do they?
They don't have proper cheese. They're ultra-processed muck.
How come he's
right?
got the nicer one?
And,
What have you
ju-
got?
well, hold on,
really
it's
good,
not the
actually.
nicer one.
You've got to have that one.
Let's
Have that
face
one.
it, if you can't make a margarita, right,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be making
As we
pizza.
just discussed.
Yeah.
Right? We were discussing this before.
There's nowhere to hide with a margarita.
There's nowhere to hide with a margarita. That's just San Marzano tomatoes.
Oh, that's good.
Have a bit of that
Fior-di-latte
one.
cheese
You have a
from
bit of that,
Naples.
that's delicious.
That's the mushroom.
That is amazing.
That's great. That's sweet soy and truffle glaze on that.
That's not what that is.
Yeah, that
Something
gives it that
amazing
something
about it.
My point is, if you want to eat pizza at home, don't go to the freezer section. Go to the bakery section, buy some flour, then buy a tin of tomatoes and some cheese and make your own. It's really easy to make. I mean, not like
as easy to
that,
make that.
obviously.
No.
I don't want to do myself out of business. Or support your local pizzeria. Go and have a pizza, have a takeaway. You know,
What's
not
going to be your
delivery.
grump next week? People who eat pizzas not at my joints.
Well, no, hold on. What I'm making the point is that.
But these are great.
We
Seriously,
talk
Matt, these are
about
really
the
good.
obesity crisis. We talk about, you know, the weight on the NHS with essentially a lot of bad eating habits, right? But we fall into the trap of convenience food. And the reason I choose frozen pizzas is it's a good way of me promoting home sliced pizza. 3 in central
Just gonna
London.
do this so that you can
Cannon
see
Street,
so you can see it.
Covent Garden,
Now
and
in Harvey
Marylebone.
Nichols.
However, that said, we could cure a lot of the obesity issues by teaching people how to cook. Now, everybody likes a pizza, and quite frankly, if you don't like a pizza, I don't trust you.
There's something wrong with you.
Yeah, I just don't trust you.
Just about to.
But the point is, you could make that yourself at home. You don't need to buy it. And by the time you've made it at home yourself, not only have you burnt some calories kneading the dough, you've also consumed about a third of what you would if you ate a frozen pizza instead.
Yes.
I mean, you know, Mum may have gone to somewhere called Iceland, I think it is.
Iceland.
But don't. It's no good
This is
for you.
delicious.
You know, now how, you know, that versus a frozen pizza, I'd rather not eat. If I had to eat a frozen pizza instead of that, I'd rather not eat. And
One of
it's
the
so
things
easy,
one of the
so
things I
easy
love
to make
about
yourself.
New York is those shops where you can just go in and get a slice.
Well, we do.
Raised.
Home slice is available by the slice.
Do you do it by the slice?
Oh yes, we
I
do
like
it by
that.
the slice. Come in.
Raised pizza,
It's a
right?
slice. It's a big slice.
Raised pizza.
Yeah, raised pizza.
Let's have a look. This is what's wrong with frozen
lovely.
pizza.
Harry, I don't have time to make pizza.
Did I say anything about making pizza? It's frozen. See? Gino's.
Gino's. I didn't know they made a frozen pizza.
It's right there in the freezer section. You think Gino's wouldn't make a frozen pizza that bakes in 10 minutes for people in a hurry?
Oh, Harry, be tender.
Of course it'll be tender. I'm gonna put it in the oven right now.
I hope you do, Harry. It's getting pretty cold against my back.
What you actually
I
want?
like the idea of frozen pizzas.
Just because you might
because of
go
that
home
excellent commercial.
and hit your wife?
If that
with a
doesn't
frozen
get you
pizza?
eating frozen pizzas, I don't know what will.
Well, that would.
hits
I mean,
her
it's a
quite a
great
lot.
advert from the 70s, back when
hits
they
her
used to
quite a
do
lot.
proper adverts.
Eat the pizza.
Eat the pizza. Mike, you wanted to talk...
Absolutely.
you would
You carry on.
Well, I mean, you wanted to talk
This is my
about
favourite ever
people
episode.
who use other people's stories,
I do.
didn't you?
I do. In the business that we
Nicking
are
stories.
in. Yeah.
I
And
love
it's not,
this.
And it's not always just people that are in our business, right?
Everybody does
But
it.
everybody's got a friend or an ex-friend who you catch at some point or other in your friendship telling a story. Which is actually
it
your
happened to
story.
you.
But it has happened to me. I used to work with a guy who did it all the time.
Can we have names?
And no names, no pack drill. People will figure out who
Oh,
it
but
was.
they tell a story that you told them that happened to you,
Yes.
and then they pretend
And then
it
they
happened
pretend
to
it happened to them.
I know that.
Right? And there was one particular instance when I interviewed Robert Maxwell shortly before he died. It was one of the last interviews he gave.
Was that why he threw himself off the boat?
Probably, yeah. He was actually on the... But it's how ridiculous he was, right? He had the Lady Ghislaine, and it was birthed in New York at the New York Boat Club. And he actually made a ship-to-shore phone call to talk to me when I was in an office literally, half a mile down the road, which he didn't need to do, but he wanted to do it because he was the captain of the ship, Anyway, it was quite a funny story. But I suddenly found this guy that I knew quite well, that I had done shows with, telling the story to a group of other people at a lunch or something, as if it was him. And then I realised this actually happens quite a lot.
My old man he gave me some, not that many bits of advice. One was have a firm handshake, which I think was very good advice. And the other was,
Beat your
he
wife,
said, no, he actually said,
With a frozen pizza.
Yeah, he actually said this to me. He said, look, if somebody tells you a really funny story that happened to them, if you're telling it to someone else, don't say, so this mate of mine, he did this, and then what happened to this mate of mine? He said, make out it was you. He said it'll make it a better story. So
See, that-
maybe that's what's going on.
See, that doesn't surprise me. That we now know why Kevin is the way that he is, right? How did this once innocent young boy end up working for the?
that
Street
kind of
tabloid?
parental advice explains so much
It
about
does.
Kev.
It really does.
But it isn't bad. I mean, it's not.
It is bad advice. You
well,
can't steal other people's stories and pretend they're your own. You
Yeah,
can't
but
do
if
it.
they're really good stories.
No.
Have you ever now look?
No.
I think
You two have worked
infamia.
in journalism for
Yeah.
many years. Have you done that thing where you sort of place a story and see how long it takes for it to come back to you
Yes.
as the truth?
Yes. Absolutely right.
That is a complete lie.
I
to
do
begin
that
with.
quite a lot, actually, just for fun.
I mean, that's the thing about Fleet Street, though, isn't it? It's just that you go to in the old days, when Fleet Street existed, you go to the pubs in Fleet Street, and it's just full of these people, these hacks, reporters, just telling these stories. Because the one thing reporters have got is good stories of shit that's happened to them.
But also, the other thing that we used to have in the old days of Fleet Street was an awful lot of what you would loosely call informers, people that used to hang around with the police, people that would be sort of, working part-time or possibly full-time in some rather nefarious trades. And they would all sort of coagulate in the pub.
More nefarious than a Fleet Street journalist.
It's like the old joke, isn't it? My mother thinks I play piano in a whorehouse. I can't admit to her that I'm actually working for a newspaper. But yeah, but these people would have incredible nuggets of information, which were almost always true. But the point was that you had to then, the job then was to try and prove it. To try and, sometimes you had to tell the story to somebody else to let them
I didn't
start
think back
the ball
then you
rolling.
needed to prove a story. You just told the story.
Well, I'm not talking about Kevin's career, obviously. I'm talking about my own.
I've never proved a story in my life. Thanks. If it's good enough, put it in the paper.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin, it doesn't matter. O'Sullivan used to be his middle name. Well,
Who cares? Who cares? It's a good story. Put it in.
Put it in. Moving on.
Yes.
What about revolting Christmas?
Yeah, it's this
food
time of year,
ads?
right? I hate this every single year. There's one currently, we're going to play that in a minute with Dawn French in it, but it's not really her fault. Everybody does it.
You don't really want Dawn French advertising food,
No,
do you?
but it's just the food, the way they describe the food, and this is supposed to entice you in to get these products. So, for example, it's Marks and Spencer. It'll go something like, prawn drizzled mushrooms.
Let's have a look at what M&S are doing.
We can't just stand around. It's party season, and that means M&S party food. There's Cornish Cruncher cheddar bites and crispy bacon cuts with rich mac and cheese and veg and hoisin-filled steamed reindeer bao buns.
What actual reindeer?
Hoisin-filled.
I don't want a bao bun with a face on it.
No. I mean, it's just
A reindeer bao bun?
No.
Yeah.
No.
What a weird way. But every year you get this, as I say, prawn drizzled, truffle covered mushrooms in a delightful avocado honey glaze spray, and it just and they think, people go, delicious. I always think, God, I want to puke. Disgusting.
Yeah,
disgusting.
You know what is quite funny to do, and I have done this before, because as I don't know if you're aware, I can cook.
So I've heard. Well, we can
Cook a
see.
pizza.
I can cook.
Yeah.
That's my damn
But
sure.
one year I had a load of people over, and I did an Iceland Christmas spread. See
What,
if they
like the
noticed.
supermarket?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See if they noticed. They didn't.
Did you?
No.
So
the
you
hoisin Christmas tree
Yeah.
duck pancake thing on a stick.
So you just-
looks like
just
a Christmas
served them a load of-
tree. The prawn crown.
Yeah. But this is also a thing, isn't it? Since it started in these ridiculous restaurants in the 80s, I think, when you would turn up and they would do, if I'd wanted a tomato, formed into the petal of a tulip,
Yes.
I would have asked for that.
Yep.
I didn't want that. I actually didn't want anybody to drizzle anything over the swordfish.
Well, I mean,
and I wouldn't have
food
minded somebody
carving-
cooking it.
Food carving is a preserve of the sort of Far East. I mean, and they do it brilliantly well, and they can make extraordinary things out of fruit and vegetables. But
I don't care.
But there was that thing, do you remember? Italian trattorias in the 70s used to think that half a slice of orange with a piece of curly parsley on it was a garnish to go with almost anything.
Almost anything, yeah.
Inedible garnishes.
Yeah.
When you served the Iceland Christmas treats, did everybody say they were delicious?
Do you know?
Did they notice? Well done, Mark. These are lovely.
But I think, yes, no, that's amazing. People are there just to eat and drink your food in the house. And what you notice is they're not really paying attention to what they eat, which I find upsetting.
Yes.
As a chef. One of the things I find very upsetting is when dinner is ready and everyone stands around bloody talking for 10 minutes. It's like, it's on the table.
It's on the table, yeah.
And but there's somebody I want to ask you about, and I don't know if he's come to your attention. You aware of Salt Bay?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Very much so.
Well, the guy
Do you know
with
who I mean by Salt Bay?
The gold leaf
that guy.
Who does that?
The guy who's
man.
£2 for a cracked
Now,
steak.
if I was Ainsley Harriott, I'd be suing him.
Yeah.
Susie Salt, Percy Pepper,
Right.
he's just doing the same thing. The only difference is he's charging you £4 million for a steak because he's
ridiculous.
laid a bit of gold leaf on it.
It's unbelievable.
Which doesn't taste of anything gold leaf, just in case you're like, can you taste
And
the
also,
gold in
should
that?
you really be eating that?
Arguably
it's a bit like eating
Well,
iron.
you're not going to digest
Remember those
it.
iron shavings?
You'll
you
just
used to
end
get?
up with a gold turd at the end.
Yeah, and which proves the point that you can indeed wrap it in, roll it in
Well,
gold.
he has definitely rolled a turd in glitter.
I mean, I would stand outside. He's got a restaurant in Knightsbridge, I think, if I'm not mistaken, underneath that casino.
Yes.
Is he still going? Is he still
And
going?
the only thing that I thought was actually quite funny that Jay Rayner did, because I'm not a big fan of Jay Rayner's, but he once went there, sat outside at a table and ate a kebab in front of the Salt Bay place, because you just go in there and know that everybody in there is a complete and utter numpty, only there to prove that they can afford to pay £1,500 for a
small,
steak.
heavily oiled man do that with
exactly.
salt
and
wave a big knife around.
Exactly. Yeah.
And charge you a fortune for a steak. Things that cost money that I don't truly understand, and maybe I'm just too young to get this, but
could be.
No, you're not.
life insurance adverts, who are they there for? Well, look at this.
Hello, I'm Michael Landon. If you're between the ages of 45 and 74, could I ask you a very serious question? Have you ever stopped to think of the financial hardships that could result from your death? Well, Academy Life's Family Security Life Plan now makes it easier than ever for anyone 45 to 74 to get the extra protection they need for only $5 a month. With Academy making it so easy, shouldn't you give your family the security they deserve?
You forget what a handsome man he was.
He was a handsome man.
He was a very handsome man,
Yes.
but he should sod off back to the little house on the prairie.
The little house on the
quite
prairie
frankly.
with that great hair of his.
It was phenomenal.
Well, so you've got this very wholesome, all-American image.
Yeah,
but
just going...
Off-screen, he smoked about 70 cigarettes a day and drank 18 bottles of bourbon every single day.
Well, I mean, that's one way to ensure you
I
claim,
guess that's why it
claim on
stops
your life insurance policy.
That's why it stops at 74.
The little piss house on the prairie.
Daytime TV is proliferated with the modern versions of these
And
adverts.
funeral ads as well.
But it's the idea that somehow you're sitting there and going, I can't decide whether to get which life insurance. Oh, they're giving me a free pen.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to go
Great.
with them.
Yeah.
I get a free pen.
Yeah. Do you know, I once bought life insurance when I lived in America because I'd obviously seen that.
Because you'd seen that, yeah.
And in fact, I was
Big
younger than...
Little House on the Prairie fan,
obviously,
you know.
obviously wasn't that one, though,
Surely
'cause
you weren't between 45 and 70
I
at the
wasn't,
time.
no. It was even more ridiculous. I was only 30-something, right?
So you got their life insurance?
Self-employed, but I got a life insurance. Then I decided to move back to London, right? And worked out that I couldn't afford to pay the premiums on it anymore. So I said, don't worry, I'm just going to, chuck it in. And they went, no, you can't. I said, what do you mean? And of course, I hadn't read the small print that you had to have it for at least 10 years before you could cash it in. So I'd put something ridiculous like $5,000 into it by this time, and I just had to leave it in there and disappear off back to England without it. Completely waste of money.
I had exactly the same thing. So
Bloody annoying.
I was going to the bank for a loan when I was starting things out and I needed some money. And they basically sold me a load of crap to go along with it.
Yes.
So therefore they could sign off the loan.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I paid the loan back, I was like, I'm going to stop paying. Oh, no. Those run, as you say, those run until you die.
Yeah. But was it like one of those endowment mortgages? Because I got one of those once. Because again, it was the only kind you could get, right?
Yeah.
And when I sold the house, the bank that I had it with said, would you like to keep the endowment part of the mortgage going, even though you've now paid the mortgage off? And I went, well, how much will that benefit me? And they said, well, it won't actually.
I'd love to then.
If you continue to put money into it for 20 years, it will be worth less than the money you've put in. Yeah. I said, well, I think on balance, I'll probably just forget it.
But the main thing about the main thing about these adverts is they're just depressing.
Yeah.
If you want to sell me life insurance, talk about who is going to, he kind of touches on it there, who's going to benefit your family, not that kind of thing like, oh, I feel so relaxed and comfortable and I got a nice pen.
Yes.
No.
And then you get the old couple.
And the reason this sort of came to my attention is my good lady wife asked the other day, do you have any life insurance?
Really?
Oh, right. She's planning to kill you. She's going to kill you.
She's either planning to kill me or she's worried.
Before I murder you,
that
do you have
or the
insurance?
incessant smoking?
Yeah.
Which they won't cover anyway.
Oh, is that right? Because
I mean, what's the point?
Yeah.
Although
it depends, because in America, they'll test you to see if you're a smoker, whereas here they don't.
Really?
Run down the street.
I don't
just tell them you don't smoke.
I'm going to take out a massive policy. I don't smoke. That is all for this week. I would like to say thank you, of course, as ever, to Mike and Kev for taking part. But, they got some free pizza this week, so they got nothing to
Best
be grumpy
episode
about.
ever.
Yeah, best episode ever. I'll bring pizza every week and see if we can actually make them smile. See you next week.